Leafs hired their new head coach last week. And then this guy got a new head coach as well. It's Jake Allen, Devils goaltender. What's up, brother? How we doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Hey, so let's just start with this. You tried your hand at media. What do you think? How'd you go?
Yeah, it was a cool experience. Obviously, looking back on it now, I mean, I'll tell you what, I was pretty nervous at the beginning. I think I built it up a little bit bigger in my head than it was. But the guys there are great and made you feel real at ease. So it was cool to see that side of it. A side that obviously promotes our game so well. Without the media, none of us have jobs, and it was really interesting. I'm glad I did it. It was a great experience, and maybe again someday.
Yeah, the first time you're on TV and they're like, the lights are going on. You're like, oh. So, is everybody looking at me? Why is everyone looking at me? It's the weirdest feeling, right? But then you probably remembered, hey, you know what? I'm a professional hockey player, and they're asking me to talk about hockey. I should be all right here. I should be okay at this.
Yeah, once you get first couple of minutes on you were fine. But you're right. It was more or less finding the right camera.
Yeah.
Taking the information in the earpiece, trying to put it all together, make sure I talk when I was supposed to talk and shut up when I was supposed to shut up. So no, it was good.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Yeah, I thought you did a great job. Like, I was really enjoying. I love when current players come on. And one of the things, so I'm actually in the NBA right now. They put Draymond Green on the inside the NBA panel, and I'm not a fan of it just because there's already 4 people on the panel, and it's a famous show. We're not going to get too much time with it, but I love how basketball does that, with all of their panels, which is bring in current players during playoff runs and getting that perspective. And so it was great to see, a current guy give his opinions and give his thoughts on the series as it was happening. I thought it was good because for whatever reason, not a lot of hockey players like to do it. And it does take some courage, but ultimately, you weren't getting cooked. It was pretty popular. Everybody thought that it was working out well for you. And I think that if it's something that you want to do, you could probably do it. I'm always curious how it comes about, though, because the stories of guys when they actually decide to do it are always like I had Derek Roy in here during trade deadline. He's like, my neighbor works at Sportsnet, and she was like, give it a try. He just came in. How did you start doing it?
Yeah, I've done a couple things with Sportsnet in the past, with Elliot and Jeff, on their podcast, a couple radio hits. And, to me, it wasn't that I was seeking this, they reached out and, gave a potential offer and said to think about it. And then, as we were officially eliminated from the playoffs, I had to give it a little bit more thought. And, right just after a season ended in Jersey, obviously things happen fast. The playoffs happen right away. And, I said, sure, I'll come up for the first few days and give it a whirl. So that's basically how it unfolded. It wasn't anything crazy, and I'm glad I did it. So it was a great opportunity for myself, to, just like you said, put an input into someone that's currently playing in the game, has a feel of these guys, these players, the circumstances they're in. Mm-hmm. And I think listeners like that, like you just said, it's, sometimes it's a similar information that's repeated. And, when something gets, a new feel or maybe one or two new things that maybe wouldn't be said without, a current player, I think it's appealing to the viewers.
Okay, well, let me ask you this as a current player. What is the feeling amongst guys about McDavid? Because it just, whenever anybody speaks about him, it's kind of like the way it is with Sidney Crosby, where there's like a reverence for his game. But the difference is, before Sid won, and I know it happened quicker than it did with McDavid, but he was like a polarizing player, right? He was, people viewed him as a bit of a rat. He would have some of the stuff where he was like viewed as a complainer, as a whiner. Then it shifted after he became a champion. It became like universally respected. Everybody loved Sidney Crosby. McDavid seemingly has that from the jump, where the way players speak about him, former players, current players, it's very different. Like, he never had to go through the phase of, hey, this guy's got to prove it. Everyone just kind of was like, no. This guy is the best player in our league. This is the most revered player in this league. He's the most talented guy maybe we've ever seen in hockey history. Is that, do you think, an accurate description of the way guys feel about him?
Yeah, I do. It's tough to say a bad thing about him. I mean, I really don't know him as a person. But the only thing I've heard is how awesome a guy he is as well. Mm-hmm. I think that goes a long way. How good of a person he is, but also how good of a hockey player he is. And the way he carries himself, he's all business all the time. We see it all. The spotlight's always on him, so he's got to be on 24/7. and I think the biggest thing for me, we all know what he does in the regular season, how good he is. We don't need to talk about it. He's the best player in the league by a mile, and has been for a long time. And as soon as he stepped onto the sheet at Rexall Place, I remember playing against him there, one of his first games, and I was blown away, completely blown away. And that was, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, maybe now. I can't even remember when he first came to the league, but I think the biggest thing that I've taken away and how much respect I have for him is, obviously Edmonton's come up short the last few years in the playoffs, and they've had to go through the ringer to get there. But, this playoffs, his adaptability is incredible. I think he's really shifted his mindset, it seems. When you see him out there, he's all business. You get the moments of flash and dash from him, but at the same time, he's playing the game that needs to be played at that certain moment. He's adapting to every game, to every shift to help his team win. And it's all team first with him right now. And I think that's why it seems like, for the first two games of that series, he's took his game to that deep, hard 200-foot game. And when he needs to, put the Connor McDavid flash on, he will. But at the same time, it seems like him and Draisaitl have shifted their mindset to whatever it takes to win. And I think that's what guys after this playoff run, whether they, succeed or not, are going to really respect even more. And, he's a hell of a player.
Yeah, I shifted my mindset immediately watching the first game, just seeing the way he was playing. I was like, oh, yeah, so as great as I felt about Dallas and as good as they were playing and as deep as they are, and I felt better about their goaltending, I felt better about their blue line. There was just a lot of reasons to be picking Dallas. And he's so great that the way he showed up for game one, I went, oh, yeah, if you have that guy on your team, I think you're the favorites. I think you're just the favorites in the series no matter what, if he's flying that way. And the one thing, right, is the whistle has changed a little bit. It's shifted in the series where you got Knobloch talking after the game doing the appeal for they want consistency. They want the game called the same way. And no duh, because their power play is unbelievable. What is it like when you're on the ice and Edmonton gets the man advantage and you're in net? What is the feeling?
I've been on the wrong side of that quite a few times. So I have a good understanding, but obviously it's a weapon. It's a lethal weapon. And, as if you're Dallas or any other team, it doesn't matter if it's playoffs or not. You can't let them go on the power play. But, as a goalie, and I think Dallas does a great job defensively. They get so much credit for it, but they deserve it. It's patience. They can make that extra play that a lot of teams can't. And obviously, you're focused on McDavid and Draisaitl, but then you have Bouchard's one-timer. You have Nugent Hopkins, who can score at will. And then you have, Hyman, knocking you all over the paint, battling in front of the net. So there's a lot of distractions going on, but for me, it's all thinking. It's all intelligence. So I think, Ottinger is obviously an unbelievable goalie. And I think if I was in his shoes, it's about patience and reading the play. I know it's very cliche and simple, but when you're playing against guys like that are seaming east-west, north-south, one-timer, low play, there's just so many options, and they're always moving. They're always in motion. So the biggest thing in motion is, understanding where guys are, or which hands, threats, one-timers, things like that. So it's really about, knowing your net, knowing where guys are on the ice, and get a little bit of luck along the way.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you about, there was this last week was a lot about you, right? Where your former coach gets hired here in Toronto, and now your current coach leaves Toronto. And you're the guy. You're the guy to talk to about the two coaches that are. I'm curious. Did you talk to Keefe?
He reached out via text and, said we're going to be in touch this week. Obviously it's probably a whirlwind for him. I don't think they've officially announced a press conference in Jersey, if I'm mistaken. So I imagine he'll touch base with all the players this week. And, we still have some guys over at the Worlds that are probably celebrating after the big win there yesterday. So no, I'm sure I'll connect here soon.
Honestly, that's going to be one of, I think, his favorite things. And I'm sure that you dealt with that going from Montreal to Jersey too, where it's like, yeah, you're going to have your introductory press conference. Don't worry, coach, but you're not going to have to speak 3 times a day for the rest of, every single day for the season, to have 20 people challenge all of your decision making. He's going to love Jersey. It is going to feel so good after the pressure cooker that he was in here. Okay, but the guy who is entering it, Berube, everything that you hear about the guy is a positive, and I'm curious about what it was like for your team in St. Louis when he was first elevated to the job.
Yeah, I mean, as any coaching change, I've seen a few in my day now, and it takes a little bit of time. And with Chief, it took a few weeks, to get everything under wraps and get going. But once we got going, the ball didn't stop. And I don't just mean just for that year that we won the cup. If you go back to the year that when COVID halted the season, again, we were first place in the National Hockey League with the Bruins, and a lot of people forget about that year because of obviously COVID, and realize how good of a job he did that year. And a lot of us always say you can't go back in time, but we thought we had as good a chance as anyone to repeat that year of the Cup if that never happened. I don't think he gets enough credit for that year just because of the circumstances. And, you guys have probably heard, I haven't listened to the press conference or anything, but he's just team first. It is like it's completely all about the team with him. And, for the good or for the bad, I don't think he cares who you are in the lineup, but also at the same point, he doesn't. It's whatever it takes for the team to win, team to succeed. And he understands you're not going to win every night. But if you have that attitude and that mindset every single night that you're going out there, you're sacrificing it for the team. And, it might take longer for other guys to adjust to it than some. But at the end of the day, it's generally beneficial for the group. And that's all he's about is the group. And, again, it's really tough to find a bad thing to say about him. He comes to work every day. He's in the right mindset. And I think that's a big thing with him. You'll probably hear about him talk, I'm sure, in the Leafs market, about mindset. He's a big proponent on mentality and mindset, and you'll probably hear that word a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to get a lot of words from him, though. We had his introductory media conference, and I was like, oh, damn, this is going to hey, you're going to make our jobs harder, buddy. Keith, he'll, wax poetic from time to time. Berube was very short and sweet about it. But the things that he did keep saying, you're right, he was, hey, I want everybody in the lineup to feel really important, really involved with the team. And then he talked about relationship building and that it happens early on, right? He said that that's something that he was getting to work with right away. And that was how he established accountability, was basically setting what he thought you were going to be responsible for and then holding you to that standard throughout the season. Does that really sound like him? Like, is that what accountability under Craig Berube looked like to you?
Yeah, for sure. No, in a nutshell, yes. And I think, trust is built on relationships, vice versa, from the player to the coach and coach to the player. And obviously that goes for any good coach, but, for Chief to go down, and I'm sure he's going to meet with a lot of the players this summer, and then for the ones he has in that camp, and, to build that right off the get-go just puts everything at ease. It really does. Obviously, there's going to be some times where things aren't going to go perfectly for the player, for the group, but that's where, that relationship comes in, that trust factor, that accountability that, boys, we're going to figure this out, or, we're going on a heater here. We're going to keep this ball rolling because we're all accountable to each other. And that's the way that he sees it. And that's the way that he coaches for the most part. And there's going to be challenges throughout the year for every team, like there always is through this league, as there's so much parity and competition and injuries. But again, that's the next man out mentality that you'll probably hear him talk about, that mindset. And, it's like you said earlier, he's going to try to make every person feel included and important on the group. Goes from, like you said, the backup goalie right through Austin Matthews. Is everyone plays a vital role, whether you see it on the outside or not. Some things you guys won't see on the outside, but he really preaches that day in, day out. And one thing that I respect about it, he doesn't change his tune. He's going to say that from the beginning, and he's going to probably say that same thing at the end. I don't think you're going to hear a million different phrases or different philosophies from him, because he sticks to what he believes, and what he believes works.
I think that's a common denominator with a lot of great leaders, is you being consistent, right? And also being someone who reflects the same values that they're putting out to the group. Like, if you think someone is just giving you rah-rah or telling you to do something and you don't feel like they put in the same work or that they're the same person, then I feel like it never resonates. And what I seem to have picked up about him from guys who played for him in multiple different spots is like, yeah, he is very much a guy who is very authentic and who does resonate with guys because some of the stuff that you're talking about right now. This one's a little bit of a tougher question, but was there a particular moment with your group, like when he stepped into that head coaching role? And again, I know he was there as an assistant, so you guys were familiar with him. And everyone's seen like the Game 7 speech, right? Like that's famous. That's lore now. But was there a moment for you with the group where you went, oh, damn, like this guy has it. He really is connecting with us in a different way now as the head coach?
Like I mentioned earlier, it's always different when an assistant goes to a head, especially in the same year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think I said this on another interview on Sportsnet. Anyway, one of the first meetings we had when he took over at the practice rink in St. Louis, I can't really repeat what he said in that meeting, but I think we all got out of that meeting and realized that, all right, things are going to be different now. I think we all, came out of there with a different perspective, a different mindset, a different understanding that it's not going to be the same around here. We truly did. I think that was felt through all 23 of us. And I think if you probably ask any guy that was on the roster at that time, they'd say the same thing. And, it took a couple of weeks for us to adjust, but once we adjusted, and we really understood what was going on and what the message was consistently every day, the same message, the same approach. We knew what we were going to get when we come to the rink, and then the coach knew that what he was going to get out of the group. And if you go to look back at all the good teams in this league, consistency wins. Obviously you need talent, you need good players, you need some luck. But at the end of the day, if you have consistency throughout your group from your, GM right through your players, it brings success. It might not bring a Stanley Cup every year, but you're going to have success.
Yeah. One last one on him. There's always the fear now that when you bring in a quote-unquote accountability coach, right, the coach that is more about the details and that, will hold a player accountable, whether it's, holding back ice time or what, that some of the younger guys now specifically in this current player climate are not going to resonate with that coach the same way. Do you think that there should be any of those kind of concerns? Like what is your read on him with younger guys?
No, I don't think at all. I think he's been through that now. I mean, again, when I was in St. Louis, we were fortunate we had a veteran-laden group, but at the same time, you can't be a successful coach in this league if you don't know how to adapt to that situation and that understanding. And I think he's very aware of it. He's very aware of his surroundings and understanding that the market that he's going to is going to have the spotlight, and he's going to have to deal with all those situations. And again, I mentioned this with McDavid, but I can go back to any position, any job in this game, in this league. You have to be adaptable. And if you can't be adaptable, the game grows every single year. It changes every single year. If you can't be adaptable and understand, and you're going to get left behind. And I think, even after I was gone, I had such a good relationship with a lot of those guys in that organization. I kept in touch with so many of them, and, I never heard a bad thing about them. Mm-hmm. And I think he's understood that that's the way that it is nowadays, for take it or leave it. You have to be able to adapt and understand the mindset of different players in different situations. And, if you want to be a successful coach, you got to approach that the right way. And I have no doubt that, he'll take care of that. No problem.
Did any of you guys ever go through his hockey fights page?
Oh, lots on a plane, lots of times. We had a hockey group. The boys love the game, so would go back and see all those crazy fights. But I wouldn't get on his bad side.
Yeah, well, that was one of my favorite parts about the hire was right away people were like, here's his fight with Brendan Shanahan, and he beat the brakes off him. And granted, Shanahan was young and good on him for taking the fight, but yeah, it's not a good look. It's not a good one for him. Anyway, Jake, thanks so much for making time, buddy. It was great to get your perspective today.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it.
Take care, buddy.